Welcome to another episode of The Dissection. The executive mayor of Johannesburg, Dada Morero, received an increase of 83,000 Rand on his annual salary. 83,000 Rands. That's 2 iPhones. Pro Max with the 3 circles. Yo, that's a big increase. So the executive mayor of Johannesburg, Dada Morero, received an increase of 83,000 Rand on his annual salary after the Johannesburg City Council voted to increase salaries for councillors and executives. This was done in an online extraordinary council meeting, which was held today, the 20th of November, to discuss the determination of the upper limits of salaries, allowances, and benefits of different members of the Municipal Council as part of the Remuneration of Public Office Bearers Act. Now, these meetings have got nice titles: to discuss the determination of upper limits of salaries, allowances, and benefits of different members of the Municipal Council. Sounds good, huh? Sounds iPhone-ic. Sounds, MacBook-ic. Sounds Konkaric. I'm just kidding. But let's have a conversation about this. The remuneration package was determined by the Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister, Velinkosi Hlabisa, and signed in October after consultation with the Executive Council responsible for local government in each province. The increase will add an extra 4.2 million to the salaries budget in the city of Johannesburg. According to the new budget, the total annual remuneration for each councillor is as follows, and I'm going to give you their monthly gross income as well. Right, executive mayor will now be earning 1.585 million a year, and that translates to 132,000 Rands per month. The speaker of the council will be making 1.28 million, and he will be, or she will be making 106,000 Rands per month. Members of the executive committees, the mayoral committees, and the whip of council will be making 1.2 million as well, and their salary is slightly lower because the speaker is making 1.28. The members of the committees are making 1.2, and they're going to be earning 100,487 a month. The chair of oversight committees is going to be making 1,170,478 a year, and then their monthly income is going to be 97,539. This is before taxes and any other deductions. Councillors who are considered part-time members of the Johannesburg Council, they make 593,610 a month, which translates to 49,467 per month. So these are the salaries. Lowest earning, 49,467. Highest earning being the mayor, 132,087. Now, these numbers need to be put in perspective because some people are watching from outside South Africa, from Botswana, from Kenya, from Uganda. We've got lots of people watching from all over. We've even got people watching from the UK and the USA. So welcome to everybody who's watching from overseas. But even for a local audience, let's put this in perspective. Statistics South Africa published the latest quarterly employment statistics for the second quarter of 2024. And these statistics come from private non-agricultural businesses such as factories, firms, offices, stores, as well as from national, provincial, and local government entities. The average monthly earnings for the non-agricultural formal sector in the second quarter of 2024 were 27,450. That's the average earnings. In real terms, after you subtract all the deductions, everything that needs to be subtracted, the average take-home pay was 14,520 in August of 2024. Now, real terms is a specific economic term that I need to clarify. So you've got real pay versus nominal pay. Nominal pay refers to the amount of money an employee earns in current monetary terms without adjusting for inflation or changes in purchasing power. It's the raw figure or face value of the wages or salary received during a given period. Now, in contrast to nominal pay, real pay is adjusted for inflation, which gives you a clearer picture of the actual purchasing power of the wages over time. Real pay reflects what goods and services the nominal pay can buy at any point in time. So real pay, average take-home pay for the non-agricultural formal sector in August of 2024 was 14,520. So that's perspective from that set of data sets. But the quarterly employment data only looks at 10.7 million jobs. It doesn't look at the informal sector. It doesn't look at the agricultural sector. It doesn't look at domestic jobs, which effectively means that it does not look at the whole picture. We know that there are 16.6 million people who are employed in South Africa. The informal sector has got 3 million people working in it. The agricultural sector, about 900,000, and private households have got about 1 million people working in there. Stats South Africa has published median monthly earnings based on the quarterly labor force survey data. This year, Stats South Africa published a report which is titled The Monthly Earnings Report in South Africa for 2017 to 2022. According to this report, between 2017 and 2022, the total median monthly earnings in South Africa were 5,200 rands, right? This is monthly. So now that we have some perspective, median monthly earnings, 5,200, using the more holistic quarterly labor force data, looking at the the average take-home pay in real terms, we had 14,520, and the monthly earnings, 27,450. So this gives you a perspective of how well or how lucrative these political jobs are. Councillors are making 49,467 a month. The chair of oversight committees, 97,539 a month. Members of the executive committee, mayoral committee, council whip, they're making 100,487 a month. The speaker is making 106,000 a month, and the executive mayor is making 132,087 rands a month. That's a lot of money when you put it in perspective. Now, let's talk about the session some more, because there were some people who didn't agree with this salary increase. The session was an online session, and watching the stream, there were some cuts, and you couldn't actually hear all of the arguments in favor or against because the signal wasn't great. But one of the people who was audible and clear from start to finish was the Freedom Front Plus caucus leader, who said that they oppose these increases because although the salary increases would not add as much to the salary spending, the party, the Freedom Front Party's position on this issue was swayed by the principle of giving councillors increases when residences are not receiving good service delivery. And they said that they don't agree with that. So what Cornelius, who's the Freedom Front Plus caucus leader, said is the following: our residents are very angry with us, seeing that we are at a terrible state of service level. We can't give ourselves an increase, even if it's so small. It's a gesture that if we vote against this item, the residents can see that we are willing to make the city better. That's what he argued for. He added that 4.2 million salary spent could employ 58 people at 6,000 rands a month, whose jobs would be to keep the grass on the roads trimmed and the stormwater drains free from debris. So that's what was argued by Freedom Front Plus. A lot of political parties actually opposed the increase, which I think it's 4.2 million a month, just to be clear, in terms of the increase on the salary spent, not 4.2 million overall. So ultimately, this issue passed with 146 votes for the increase, and there were 33 votes against. The parties that voted against were the Freedom Front Plus, the Economic Freedom Fighters, and the ACDP. The members of the Democratic Alliance, the 70 members, abstained. I don't know why they didn't just vote one way or another on this particular issue, but that's where things stand. Now, the challenges that the city of Johannesburg is facing include the following. There's a water crisis. There's parts of the city that are not getting water consistently. And in fact, there was an announcement that parts of Brixton, etc., would not be receiving water because one of the reservoirs ran out of water or something to that effect. That announcement was made today. There's a safety crisis. Some of the top 10 police stations for the reporting of violent crime are in Johannesburg. There's a service delivery crisis with municipal waste management. Issues of, in the townships, waste being picked up on time, landfills which are full of trash being cleared out, that kind of a thing is the issue. Then there's a high unemployment issue as well in the city of Johannesburg. If you look at the data for Cape Town, for instance, and the Western Cape, very low unemployment there. When you look at the city of Johannesburg, the unemployment data was significantly higher. So this is what feeds into the argument that was being made by Freedom Front Plus and perhaps even other parties that opposed, EFF, ACDP, right? I want to ask you, do you think that the members of the council are overpaid? Mayor going down. Do you think that they're taking too much money for the level of quality of service that they're delivering? Do you think also that Action SA, ANC, IFP, Patriotic Alliance, those who voted for this particular measure, do you think that they should have voted against the salary increases to show in principle that they stand with the people, that they believe that they should be rewarded when they're doing well and not particularly given any rewards financially when the city council is not doing well, not performing well? Do you think that it's important to show that empathy, solidarity with the people and to show that you understand the challenges the city is facing and the challenges the people are facing and also the budget constraints that the city in and of itself has? Because when people ask, why is this not being done? Why is that not being done? The city will often say, we don't have enough money. We need more money in order to be able to do this. But here you are taking more money for yourselves. Do you think that they shouldn't have done that? My thinking on this is that there wouldn't be much of an issue with this kind of a story if the city was doing well. For instance, if people announce that the city of Cape Town is going to pay its mayoral council and council members more, I don't think that many people in Cape Town would be concerned about that, because when you compare certain elements of Cape Town with certain elements of the city of Johannesburg, you can see that Cape Town is doing better at managing the city. It's ascertainable, it's discernible. There are issues, of course, with the state of Khayelitsha, Langa, the Cape Flats, where the city of Cape Town has failed to prioritize those areas sufficiently and deliver the type of quality of service that you see in other parts of Cape Town. So the poorest parts of Cape Town look like the poorest parts of any other part of South Africa. And the DA has nothing to brag about. But many parts of Cape Town also have a lot of first-class, world-class service delivery. And even their CBD, their central business district, is quite safer, cleaner, better than the CBD in Johannesburg as things stand right now. So I think some people are concerned that, the city of Johannesburg is not delivering and that people shouldn't take any money, any increases at this particular point because of the failures of the city and the continuing challenges that the city is facing. What do you think, though? Let's have a conversation in the comments. I'm in the comments all the time. So if you post something, I'm going to see it, and then we can have a chat further on that particular issue. But I want to move to the second topic of today, which is that the Southern African Development Community, SADC, is facing a moment of truth. And that moment of truth relates to the events in Mozambique. Mozambique had elections on the 9th of October. The African Union sent an observer mission. SADC sent an observer mission. The EU sent an observer mission. But there have been issues with that election. There have been protests. There have been allegations of election rigging. The opposition leader, Venancio Mondlane, has accused the governing Frelimo party, which is led by the President Daniel Chapo, of election manipulation. And these allegations are not isolated and they are not irrational or fabricated. They have found validation in reports from, for instance, the EU Election Observation Mission, and several opposition candidates and NGOs and civil society have pointed out irregularities that are, verifiable independently. There's even been video footage which showed that some people from Zimbabwe actually were bussed into Mozambique and voted in that particular election, which is a peculiar thing. But that footage has been shared on social media and even verified by platforms such as SADC. So there are issues with the Mozambique election, and this is not the first time that there have been issues of election rigging and allegations of this nature. To be honest with you, I think that Frelimo rigged the election. I think that they've rigged it a few times, actually, including in 2019. And I think that I am persuaded by the allegations that exist right now that they have been manipulations of the election. But not only have they been these allegations, they have been political assassinations. The most prominent being the killing of Elvino Diaz, who was the legal advisor to the presidential candidate Venancio Mondlane, who I've already spoken about, and opposition politician Paulo Guambe. This is hectic. Killing the lawyer to the leader of opposition or the opposition candidate in South Africa would be like assassinating Advocate Dalimpofu because you don't like the fact that he's taking cases to the Concord for the MK. It is not democratic at all, and it's a serious red flag. On top of that, there have been protests since the elections, and the government has failed to restore order in the country. At some point, the border between South Africa and Mozambique was closed. It's been reopened, but it was closed because of the amount of protests and the instability and the insecurity in Mozambique. And those protests have not ended. There's been an internet blackout. They've tried to shut down the world from being able to get a direct look at what's going on in Mozambique, but there's a crisis in Mozambique. Now, SADC is holding an extraordinary summit of the heads of state and government in Harare in Zimbabwe. Right? This extraordinary summit of heads of state starts today on the 20th of November in Harare, and it's the stated intention is to review the security situation in the region with focus on the situation in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The summit will be chaired by Emmerson Mnangagwa, the president of the Republic of Zimbabwe and the chairperson of SADC at this particular point. It will receive an update on the progress of the SADC mission in the DRC. Now, this extraordinary summit has been preceded by an extraordinary SADC organ Troika summit, which was chaired by Dr. Hussein Ali Mwinyi, who's the president of Zanzibar, representing the president of Tanzania, Samia Hassan, right? And she right now sits as the president of as the chairperson of the SADC organ on politics, defense, and security cooperation, which is the Troika. This SADC organ Troika is a critical component of the SADC community and is established to promote peace, security in the region. Its mandate is to look at specific things, protecting peace and stability across member states, addressing threats to security and democratic governance, and coordinating responses to political crises within the region. So before the SADC heads of state meeting, you have this organ Troika meeting, and that's supposed to feed into the information that is given to the SADC extraordinary meeting, right? Now, there are going to be people who are going to be asking questions about the human rights violations in Mozambique, the suppression of dissent, and how SADC is going to deal with this. Because, by the way, in these protests, there have been reports of rubber bullets and live ammunition being used against demonstrators. There have been 21 deaths and hundreds of injuries, and there have also been reports of home invasions in certain regions of Mozambique. And all of that is in violation of the African Charter of Human and People's Rights, which is a treaty that has been ratified by Mozambique and affirms the rights to life, liberty, free expression, peaceful assembly. This election also underscores the violations of the African Charter for Democracy, Elections, and Governance, which has been ratified by Mozambique. So Mozambique is governed by these treaties. They are part of its law, and they're also African law. It is violating international law when civilians are killed, protesters are killed, political activists are killed, when elections are manipulated by rigging. Now the test is going to be, what is SADC going to do about it? And if SADC does nothing, many people will shrug in terms of like, okay, SADC again has failed. But that will destroy the credibility of the institution, because SADC has continuously failed to hold leaders in the region to account for abuses of human rights. SADC has failed to hold leaders to account for election manipulation. And if this regional entity continues this way, over time, the young people of Africa will no longer care what the body has to say. And it will become a white elephant if it isn't already. And these types of institutions cost a lot of money to maintain and sustain, and all of these meetings that they're holding cost a lot of money. But once you have institutions losing all credibility, what that means down the road is that those people will be surprised when youth start having revolutions and movements outside of these structures and not listening to any of these leaders. Because if you think you can continue to ignore electoral fraud, human rights abuses, and that the youth of Africa will continue to just, lie down and allow their backs to be beaten forever, that's a mistake. That's a mistake. But I think SADC is not going to make a strong determination on this, because even though their observer mission even criticized the elections in Zimbabwe, when it now came to the SADC meeting, they were all thumbs up and we congratulate Zimbabwe and all of that. And that in and of itself also undermined the credibility of the institution. These institutions may need at some point to be restructured altogether. And there may be a generation of Africans that has to come together and say, let's scrap all of this. It's not working. It's not doing anything. It's not helping any African. Let's create stronger institutions. I don't know what you think about the elections in Mozambique and the SADC summit. Do you expect much from that summit, or do you think it's going to be more of the same? Let's have a conversation in the comments. Till the next one.